Hello, guys. Welcome back again on cineMArziale. This is the first time we talk with someone from Filipino martial arts in the movies in this playlist, and is Guro Alvin Catacutan.
Hello,
Welcome.
hello. Thank you
Welcome.
very much.
It's really a pleasure to have you. Nice to meet you. It's the first time we talk to each other. So, Guru Alvin, I would like to ask you something about your experience in martial arts and your experience, especially in the Filipino martial arts.
I started martial arts over 30 years ago in college, actually. It's in Shotokan Karate, and completed my black belt training in Winnipeg, Manitoba, in Canada, and then moved here to Los Angeles over 20 years ago and started training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and then found the Inosanto Academy. Over my shoulder is a picture of my teacher, Guro Dan Inosanto, who is world famous, known as Bruce Lee's best friend and training partner, and also Filipino martial arts teacher. But at the academy, I studied Filipino martial arts Kali, Silat, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Shuto, and Jeet Kune Do. Guro Dan ranked me as black belt in Kali, Silat, and as an instructor in Jeet Kune Do. I recently, I think just 2 years ago, I received my black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu after over 20 years of on and off training. And so I have a nice mixed bag of martial arts training, and I share all of that and all I can with my students at Pamana Kali in Torrance, California, and all the children in our clubs in Los Angeles. I've been in film and television for about as long as about 30 years now. I started in theater at the University of Winnipeg, and I acted and was pursuing an acting career in Canada until I moved here to Los Angeles and to chase the stars. After having children, my wife and I having children, I decided to retire mostly from acting and focused on my martial arts and teaching. And that was really fruitful for me because being at the Inosanto Academy, I always had one foot in the door with film and television, because they're Hollywood greats still training there with Guro Dan, like Guru Jeff Imada, who is a stunt coordinator for the Jason Bourne series or for Bourne Identity, and many other films. We have many stunt people training there with us. We had Chad Stahelski, who was previous to me there,
Yeah.
and David Leach, who was in our lineage, and so and
Damon
Damon
Caro,
Caro.
Damon also,
So four, like the massive stunt coordinators
Yeah.
and directors, people who've made a massive impact in film and television, or mostly film, in the lineage that I'm in with Guro Dan. Guro Dan, of course, being in film and television as well. I feel really blessed that I was able to do that. I didn't go to the academy because of that. I went there because I wanted to learn martial arts. But the two go hand in hand here in Los Angeles. It's one of the few places in the world where you can be a full-time martial artist, teaching martial arts, and being in film and television as a stunt person, as a performer, as an actor, or a fight coordinator or stunt coordinator.
Guru Alvin, we will talk about the DUNE Part II because you trained some of the actors. We will talk it in a few minutes. Some of the actors from the movie Part II.
Yes.
We also I remember also Demon Caro and Jonathan Eusebio. Also there is.
Yeah, Jojo Eusebio. Jonathan Eusebio is also from the Inosanto Academy.
Yeah, they did many martial arts. Also, it's not about FMA. They also trained and choreographed many scenes. Also, not just for FMA, like the Avengers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ninja Assassin, I think, also.
What's really interesting about FMA and why it fits so well in sort of the world of mixed martial arts, or when you're training in other styles, is that FMA really is a blend of techniques and tools. It's not particularly one way of doing things. It's not just knife. It's not just sticks. Um, FMA developed because of war and because of revolution and fighting against oppression. And whatever it took is what you did. So Filipinos in the Philippines during the Spanish Revolution, while we were fighting against the Spanish, would take weaponry and techniques from the Spanish and from Europeans and learn that and make it our own, and then we'd use it against them. And that's the nature of our art, is that we're adaptable, which is why all these wonderful stunt performers are able to use FMA in so many ways, is that the art itself is so adaptable. When Chad and David also and Damon worked on the Spartans movie, Spartans 300, they took
Yeah,
Filipino martial
300. Yeah,
arts,
also there. Yeah,
right? They took
yeah,
their knowledge of Filipino martial arts and adapted it and did their research to make what they knew look like, ancient Greek Spartan battle technique. And there is no evidence, there's no long history of Spartan training, but
yeah,
they
yeah. We don't know
real,
that. We
right?
can imagine something.
We can't, no, and it was all imagined, and it was wonderful. And
Yeah.
they used Filipino martial arts as the base, and that's what we did for Dune as well. It's a proven, um, it's a proven practice in film and television to take Filipino martial arts or any martial art, give the actors or stunt people a solid base in actual fighting, and then turn it into performance and entertainment.
Mhm. Um, there is a fight in the first movie about Blade with Wesley Snipes.
Mhm.
The fight in the vampire library. I think it's a library, museum, stuff like that. I think there is all the Inosanto Academy inside that scene. It's full
Yeah,
of them. It's full.
yeah, yeah.
That's nice.
Jeff
That was
Imada,
nice.
was
Yeah.
stunt coordinator on that, I believe. And that happens because Guru Jeff trains with us at the academy, and a lot of the people that he works with in stunts will come and train, or he'll invite them to come and train because he knows that the benefits of the training, and that's where he started. He was very young at the original Kali Academy with Guru Dan, and he's continuing to train. He still shows up and he still trains. I believe he's one of his longest running students, and it's really a testament to his devotion to Guru Dan and to the training.
A few years ago, I wrote a list about Filipino martial arts in the movies. Then I stopped. I didn't write anymore since then.
Mm.
It was until, I don't remember, maybe it was until the Avengers movie, the first one. I wrote this list, and there were a few movies with people from the Filipino martial arts and also from the Pencak Silat. Is there a movie that you could say to a friend that know nothing about Filipino martial arts and you want to show, look at that movie, that's Filipino martial arts, that you can say it's representative for Kali's Krima?
Dune Part 2, for sure. Why? Well,
except
because there's
except
battlefield scene.
Dune. Yeah,
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 I mean,
because especially the melee combat in
yeah,
between
the
many
melee.
people.
Oh, is beautiful, and really,
Yeah.
those are the roots of FMA. That's where it was born, in combat on the battlefield, in chaos. And the survivors would bring back that knowledge and say, okay, I'm going to help you prepare for the next battle to help you survive. And those of us who survive will continue to get stronger and be able to protect ourselves and our communities. The one-on-one dueling, that's also FMA, but it's FMA is more famous for that one-on-one because of sport, right? You don't often
Yep.
see multiple opponent sport
Yeah.
competitions. That would be
Not
fun.
yet.
I
Not
would,
yet.
I would,
We can
I think I
organize
would
that.
love to see that. Really,
Yeah.
multiple opponent Kali competitions. But that's why I cannot recall a film that covers both aspects next to even the Spartans movie, because the Spartans movie tried to I guess, express it more in a sort of imagined historical context for the Greek Spartans, right? My favorite part of the idea that FMA is well represented in Dune Part II is that Frank Herbert wrote about humanity, tens of thousands of years from now, right? Millennia from now. And the idea is that the Atreides and the people on Arrakis are human. They're us, but in the future. And it makes my heart so happy to know that Kali survives. It goes with them.
Because of the war. I don't know how many guys that didn't read the books, but there were jihad, Butlerian jihad. So all the machines, all the computers were switched
Wiped
off
out.
because of a war, a long, very long war. And so that's why we don't see computers and a spaceship with computers. And really nice, we use knives. So I
It's
think
our
what's best than Filipino martial arts for a knife
right
to fight
beside a
with
rock,
weapons.
a stick, and a sharp, something sharp. Those are our first technologies.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they will be our last because they're reliable and you can find it anywhere. And that's the beauty of FMA, is that it's reliable and you can use your skill sets anywhere.
Okay, let's get in the movie. Okay, so
Okay.
Dune Part II. How did you get involved in the movie?
Okay. Well, I mean, if I can give you the long story, I train
How do you
with
prefer?
yeah. I think it's a little bit more interesting than I got hired to train them, but the long story is through my professor Hugh Fitzgerald, who was involved in the John Wick movies as a Brazilian jiu-jitsu instructor, who helped train Keanu along with the Machado brothers, right, and the many people involved there in the stunt teams, of course. At 8711 Action Design, good friend of Chad Stahelski. He teaches a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class for the stunt people and people like me who know him. I was a part of that class, and I trained jiu-jitsu with him for many years, and he's actually my instructor, made me a black belt in jiu-jitsu. From there, I guess the stunt community recognized me as someone who trains with Guru Dan, who's also an instructor in Filipino martial arts. And Roger Yuan, who was he just finished working on Dune Part I, was training with us in the jiu-jitsu class, and I got to know him there. And really, because I'm still part of the film community and the stunt community, I'm recognized as someone who has something to offer, right? And so years later, when Dune Part II came, Roger gave me a call and said, Alvin, I'm looking at you to train Austin Butler, who's playing Fade in Dune Part II. And it just started with that, and as a test, because he hadn't hired me before for anything, and I don't do stunt work. I was an actor for a little bit, so I'm more of an unknown quantity to the people currently working. But he gave me a chance and asked me to work with Austin. And it turned out that it was working. He was happy with the work we were doing, and that led to training Timothée Chalamet, and then training Josh Brolin. And so for months I worked for about 3 months, a month each with each actor before they went to set. And I trained them in Filipino martial arts because that was my assignment. Give them a solid base to make them look like they knew what they were doing. They had been doing this all their lives.
How long did it take to train each one of them?
Well, with Austin, he was so dedicated. I trained him 5 days a week for 2 hours a day. It was the most, really committed. He's a unique individual that digs in right away. He called me when Roger gave him my number, and Austin called me first before I could reach him and said, let's get started. And even before he even knew if he was certain to be playing this role, he just said, okay, let's start training. And I showed up at his house and we started training.
How does it work? Do you train an actor for that scene, for that fight, or you train the basics anyway?
Well, like everything, you have to give the foundation first, especially if people haven't trained before. Luckily for Austin, he's been in shows where he's had to do some action. He's had stunt doubles. He's had some martial arts training. So he was very easy to train, a super learner, a hard worker. So you start with the basics. That way you have a common language. You can see how far they can go and how quickly you can train them. Once that's in, right? Because Roger made sure that I was on track. We would send him video of the training, and because he was already overseas preparing the fights. And once that's established, once their basic fundamentals are there, he looks like he's moving with power using the techniques from Filipino martial arts. So I gave him specific exercises like the Sombrada drill, Heaven 6 series for coordination, and some footwork as well.
Yeah.
Because I am Filipino, I was born in the Philippines, and Filipino martial arts is my great passion in life. And when I share it with others with the intention of building an appreciation for Filipino culture, the Filipino people, and the history of the fighting arts. And he just soaked that all in. He loved it because Filipino martial arts is about war, and that's what his job is as an actor, is to understand that. So once he had all his preparation, near the end of our training, actually Roger Yuan came with Timothée Chalamet's stunt double, and we went to the house and we trained Austin in his house on the fight they were gonna do in the arena, because it was Roger and Austin Butler in the arena, and those two worked on that fight, and then we worked on his fight with Timothée as well. And so a week of that every day for 2 days, 2 hours a day with Roger and Timothée's stunt double. And then when Roger and Lorenz, that's his name, left for set, I continued the training for another week to help him keep that in his memory. And then he went to set, and as soon as he landed and met Timothée, that first day they started training and preparing the fight.
I think Josh Brolin already has some experience in martial arts, because I remember there was the movie that he was the movie with David Leitch, by David Leitch, the Deadpool #2.
Deadpool, yeah.
There is Cable.
Yeah, I
And
played
maybe
Cable.
he did something also for the Avengers, so to play Thanos. So did he have some experience already?
He did have some. I mean, Josh has been teaching. Josh has been acting since he was young, a boy, right, and a very long time.
Yeah. The
And
Goonies, I
so
remember.
he's such a wonderful person and serious about his craft. So he was a joy to work with, honestly. Because we're about the same age, we have a lot in common. We have kids, and I was able to give him the history as well and help him understand the spirit of the warrior in
Same age
FMA.
with you?
No, he's a little bit older than me. Yeah, but
He's 50. I think he's 56, 55, because he's like me. I'm 50,
Yeah.
56.
There
So
you
I
go,
remember
around
that.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just turned 50 last month, so we're in the same generation, right? So it was very easy to understand him and his needs, and he learned as well. He worked very hard. All of the actors, Timothée, Austin, and Josh, all worked very hard during training. But having previous martial arts training does help an actor, because they understand the language, they understand the discipline involved, right? So the complications, however, is that they're all professionals and they all have other duties or obligations, like to their families and to work and to other films that they were working on. An example of Austin is that when I was training him, he was likely in the evening, he was doing interviews for Elvis, and he was flying out to press junkets and then flying back and training. Timothy was doing the same thing. He was all over the country, all over the world, and he'd come back and we'd have to get back to the training as well. So I'm just a part of what they do, knowing full well it's important to help them prepare for the hard work involved, because if they're not prepared, it's going to be even harder. And if the director wants to see their faces, without using CGI on a stunt double, they're going to have to be able to make these movements look like they know it. It's in their bodies.
I would like to ask you something about the weapons, because
Yes.
as I told you before, the first time I knew something about Dune was the movie in 1984. Since then, I started reading the books. So normally people is divided between Star Wars fan and Dune fans. I was always a Dune fan, so I was into that kind of mood, really serious, really psychological. The fear is and all that stuff. I really love that stuff. So when I read the books, also in the books they talk about the crease and the importance of the crease, how it works, what's the meaning of a crease and stuff like that. So as in the Lord of the Rings, someone has to design a blade or a crease or something that we don't know how it was. So how was chosen the kind of the blade, and how the training was for a long blade, a medium blade, a short blade, because there are many types of blades in the movies.
Well, that's, a question for the art department, of course, right? But I did have I was sent images of the plans for the blades for Austin, because I wanted to make sure that what we trained with was close in length and design. And fortunately, we're all using the same resources. And so it was more like espada y daga from the Philippines, so a long and short blade. And I was able to procure some of those from my friend Guru Steve Del Castillo from Bunal Blades. So we had training equipment, or Bunal training, FMA training equipment. And so we had padded sword and knife that simulated the length. So we were able to work with that using Filipino martial arts drills like numerada and other things. So he could understand the distance required, because when you have a close knife, it's a lot closer. With a sword and dagger, you're in and out. So knowing what the blade lengths were, because we actually measured them and we made sure that the length of our training equipment was the same as what the art department was designing and preparing for set. As to the long blades, the different types of blades from the Atreides that Josh Brolin used as Gurney Halleck for the battlefield, is a little bit more, I guess, rugged and more sort of straight blade. That is still, because most blades are designed for human proportions, it was easy to find
it's more like a machete,
right? Yeah. So
and also the two fights of Austin Butler. One is with a short knife. It's not that short, but it's shorter.
It's a long knife, yeah.
And at the end of the movie, but the other weapon from the arena fight is longer. So I think there was two types of training for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was all one training, right? You just put a different weapon in your hand. That's the nature of Kali, is that you learn to use any weapon because you understand distance and timing and position, right? And so with a shorter weapon, you have to understand your distance compared to a longer weapon. And we trained for that, knowing full well his character would know the difference as well. So we'd go back and forth between the stick or the long knife. And then sometimes we'd work on close quarter knife work in case we would need to get up close and personal. And that was really important to know that if you have a longer knife and you're this close to another actor or to the other character you're fighting with, the knife has to work differently. So we worked in all the different ranges.
Okay, about the fights. In part 2, we have more or less four big fights. There is one in the desert, more or less in the beginning. There is the second one is about the arena with Austin Butler. There is the third one, the melee combat in the desert with worms and all that big fight with the Chani. And there is the last one. There is the last duel between Timothée Chalamet and Paul Atreides, Muad'Dib, and Austin Butler, Fate Rauta. Also, I forgot to say, when I saw the first movie, there was no Fate Rauta. We were like that. There is no Fate
Rauta. Where'd he go? Right?
Where is Fate Rauta? I remember Sting in the other movie. So we all my friends also really that really loves Dune were waiting for Fate Rauta also in the second movie. And yes, it's there. When we saw when the first trailer, thank God it's there.
Right.
So you train in different ways for the different kind of fights.
Yeah,
the
because
actors.
A one-on-one duel is very different from melee, right? From battlefield and multiple opponents. So with Austin, knowing he was mostly doing one-on-one duels, even though in the arena there were multiple opponents, he fought them one after another. So that wasn't as challenging to do. And really, it's a one-on-one duel is similar to a battlefield because you really only can fight one person at a time. You're just switching opponents sooner. So training him for the duels was different from how I trained Josh, because I knew that he had a big battle scene as well, walking out to meet Raban, and he'd be cutting through other warriors. So his training involved a lot of moving through distances and dealing with multiple opponents. And of course, there's only me training him. What's beautiful about Filipino martial arts is that our method of training always prepares you for multiple opponents, because you have one person who is the feeder, who delivers strikes, and when you've dealt with that problem, I give you another problem, which represents a new opponent. So it was not as hard to transition between the one-on-one dueling techniques to multiple opponents.
Okay, and you teach Filipino martial arts day by day. Every day you do that, right? So you have people that comes to you, and you can build up day by day, week after week. How things change when you have someone that can train with you only for, I don't know, 2 months maybe, and you have to train them 2 months. Well, we only have 1 month left. 1 week left. We got to finish that. That's something like that happened.
It's always for film. You have a very short timeline,
you have
especially
to fight
television.
with time. You had to fight with time also.
It's a battle against the clock for sure. So what you do is you leave out a lot of things. And if you know Filipino martial arts, and most really comprehensive martial arts, it covers a lot of ground, like from ground fighting to empty hand to multiple weapons to long weapons, like the staff or the spear. But what we do for a film is I look at the script and I talk to the fight coordinator, and I understand what fights these particular actors are doing and what the nature is, and I focus on the skills involved in those scenes. That way, we're very efficient. We're not going to add any extra skills.
You studied in the Inosanto Academy, so you you train Inosanto Lacoste, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a multi-system.
Yes.
So did you choose some styles that were maybe better for that kind of fights to
Yes.
train the actors, and you
Yes.
decided, no, maybe this style, it's a little different, it's a little harder to train it and to learn in a short period?
Yes. I used Picky di Tertia and Calis Illustrissimo as it is expressed through the Inosanto Academy's training. By the time something gets passed to us as students from Guro Dan has already filtered it and absorbed it for himself, and he shares what he believes is good for us. So when we take that drill exercise or that skill set and we compare it to the original, so Calis Illustrissimo or Picky di Tertia, it's not going to look the same. It's going to have differences. And Picky di Tertia will say, well, that's bad Picky di Tertia, or that's bad Calis Illustrissimo because you're missing this and you're doing this wrong. But for us, it's right because it suits our needs. And for every teacher, you do that for all your students. So with the first movie, Balintawak being heavily influenced, being a heavy influence on the scene with Gurney Halleck and Paul in the training
Yeah,
scene,
the training in the beginning.
it was
Yeah.
so beautiful, so well done,
Yeah.
and very sharp,
Yes.
very close. And they were using the shields as well, so you could really feature that part of that story and understand their world. But by the time they get to the desert, I believe that it would have to change because their training comes from Arrakis, and it's a different world and different environment, and so it's very similar to how Filipino martial arts operates. Is that wherever you are, whatever environment you're in, you must adapt to that environment and change your fighting style and what you do to suit that environment. So in the desert with all this wide landscape and sand and nothing else, you run, you jump, you hide in the sand. And so it's a different fighting style. It's a little more distance oriented. So it's not close quarter. If you're imagining Arrakis being so lush and green, there's going to be trees, there's going to be more buildings and other things you're going to have to deal with, or more nature you're going to have to deal with. Whereas the style that we would choose for battlefield out in the open with nothing obstructing you, only your opponents, you have more room to move. So the longer blade from Calis Illustrissimo really helped. And then the close quarter work in Picky di Tertia helped as well. So those are the two I focused on for their training, knowing full well that's at least what I believe what they would need for their scenes.
I really loved the first fight when they get out from the sand. There is Paul that goes in the desert for the test in the desert the night, and Shani goes with him. And then there is this scene with they're extracting the spice, and something happened in the desert. That one is really that it's really Kali-like, Kylish. It's really Kylish because it's really chaos fighting. Maybe the other one that looks like the other fight in the first movie, it's too much style, too much
A lot of
jumping,
parkour fighting,
falling
yeah?
in the air, stuff
Yeah,
like that. So
yeah,
I
acrobatic. Yeah,
yeah, it's I don't like acrobatic, maybe because I'm getting old.
sure.
so but the first one is really really nice. There was some curiosity that Timothée Chalamet, Austin Butler, or Josh Brolin had about Filipino martial arts, and ask you something more like, what is this? Can you show me? I want to know something more about this. Like, I don't know, for example, the sombrada. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe they train San Sombrada, because usually sombrada is one of the more funny things to train. The first time you see the sombrada, it's so funny. You give and take, give and take, give
Yeah.
and take. So maybe something like, is there something like this? I really enjoyed to do that. Do you have something more like this?
Well, there was a moment where I was introducing the Kali salutation to Austin Butler, and he was really really appreciative of the history and the context and the culture of it. So he really wanted to get it right. Right, I would do it
You
sort of
mean
casually because I've done
what?
that,
Inosanto?
and there,
Okay.
yeah, and there's so many ways, right? With Jason Momoa's salutation is more from
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
knees, so it goes to your
Yeah.
heart instead of to the center. From Inosanto Academy, we go to the middle here, and then there's multiple salutation, multiple
Yeah.
moves out from 5 to 12 moves, and he really wanted to know, and that really helped me feel um, like I was doing a good job, that he was falling in love with the art itself. So the other aspects of my training with Austin is that I knew that his role was more brutal, more sadistic. And
Yeah.
so I would give him more history about battlefield techniques of psychological warfare, of dispatching an opponent in the most brutal way in front of his in front of the others, so that they could see how horrible you could be to them, to frighten them off. And then he'd take that information and turn it into his, use that as research for his role, to understand why, and to justify why he kills the way he does, and so casually. Um, using the people he kills as an example to others.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, as a difference with the Paul Atreides role, teaching Timothy the techniques as something purely about getting the job done, and sort of then trying to understand how Paul Atreides would fight, and that he actually has some special abilities. And I think Fade Rotha, being another sort of potential Kwisatz Haderach, would have that similar ability to see the future a little bit, So we talked about that. We worked on that a little bit, and that in a split second he can predict what you're going to do, and then be prepared
Did
for
you
that.
read the books? Did you read the books?
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay, because you talk about something that I don't know if we can talk about it, because there is something also that happens in the future and maybe in
yes,
the third
right.
movie.
I don't
So
want to give spoilers or in the future, right, with the next movie. And I hear, and I've seen posts online about Dune Messiah coming,
mhm.
and that Denis has always planned this as 3 films. So
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
really excited, and I'm hoping to work on it myself if possible. But you never know. I'm hoping to see
I'm
Jason
really
Momoa
I'm
come
really
back in
curious.
American Idol.
I'm really curious because the way the part two ends is a
Hmm.
little different
Yeah,
than the
yeah,
books. In the books happens something that there is not in the movie,
yes,
and so it would be different. So I'm really really curious.
yeah. I mean, I'm
I don't
along for
want
the
to say
ride,
anything. I don't
right?
want to spoiler
It's true.
to spoil anything. So
Yeah.
um, did you have the uh, did you have the obligation to do something more straight or larger, like movements more large, because for the camera you have
Hmm.
to adapt and show more things, otherwise the little details in the movements, it's not watchable for the audience.
Right, right. Absolutely. It's a very good question about training for film versus training for martial arts or for combat. I currently train stunt professionals and actors in film fighting and martial arts. And what we do and how I approach it is I teach them martial arts first. I teach them the reality of it, the physics and the physiology, and how it's supposed to really work, and the things that we do that what we would call are invisible. Most people don't see it, you can only feel it. And that's what helps make things work, so that they understand it. And then we broaden the movement so that an audience can see it, depending on
Yeah.
I guess the medium, right? If for a camera, we have to understand where the camera is going to be. We can make suggestions as to where to put that camera so the audience can truly appreciate the fight. Um, depending on the director's vision and the story in this scene. So first you train the small, the details, and then we train the large for camera. And then a lot is lost. That's the truth when it comes to effective fighting. But it's effective for entertainment. It's effective for making sure an audience sees what's going on, right?
Yes.
So you have to do both.
Especially in the last fight between Paul Atreides and Faith Rota, there is knife versus knife. There are some really wide movements that maybe, for example, we see Paul Atreides from the back and Faith Rota in the other in front of us, and if he could do a straight movement, the audience could not see that. So we need to see loading.
To see the whole arm, you have to see the knife. Yeah. I teach it this way.
I'm in the back. I must see that. So everything must change to give the audience a show.
Yes, and by the end of the day, it's all choreography. It's a dance, right? And it's important to recognize the difference so that you can be more efficient in your preparation, right? So the beginnings are martial arts, so they understand why we're doing something, and then we adjust it so that the audience can see that. How I describe it is telling a three-part story arc. It's like the beginning, the middle, and then the end, all the way across the cameras or across the screen, is telling the audience, I am about to cut him. I am cutting him. I have cut him. So you got the beginning, middle, and end of every movement has a little story. And we wouldn't do that in a real fight. If you were well trained, it would, oh, he's lying there dead and nobody saw what happened. And that's how FMA is trained. It's like, I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. I'm going to do this in the most invisible way as possible. That way I can move on and they don't know how to stop me.
Some years ago, just 10 seconds about me.
Yes,
some years ago, in 2004, more or less, I was involved in a short TV series that they didn't shot anymore. But we trained for that, and we had to decide the choreography and stuff like that. They chose me because of a flyer. I was with weapons and stuff like that. I was already teaching Filipino martial arts, and this guy's the director came to me and said, "Oh, I really liked your photo. You were like that with the goatee, and I really liked that photo. So can you show me something?" Okay, so I showed something about the sombrada with knife, and he said, "Yes, it's really beautiful, but if I shoot something like that, they will not see that." In the end, they saw something about capoeira that I trained when in the 90s. And they decided I had to do the capoeira. They said, no, the capoeira, I like the capoeira. Do this. It was, no, I was training and learning Filipino martial arts. I love Filipino martial arts. Please, I love also capoeira. It's nice, but I'm not a capoeira guy. So, but they said, we like capoeira. Please do the capoeira. Okay. We didn't do anything anymore.
Well, capoeira looks great on camera. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It really is.
Sadly, there is just one movie about capoeira with Mark Dacascos. Only the strong. Maybe the title in English.
And I know Mestre Amin Santo, and I've met. I call him Kuya Mark a few times. I don't know if he'll remember me, but through Brazil Cultural Center, where Mestre Amin teaches capoeira. That's Mark Dacascos' teacher in capoeira, and they're both in the film. And they keep they're still very close. And Mark Dacascos still trains in his multiple martial arts. Him being half Filipino as well. I really wish I could see him doing more Filipino martial arts.
About Mark Dacascos, Al Dacascos, his father. Yes. And Mark was really, really young, came to my town, Napoli. You know Napoli, where there is the Vesuvius in southern Italy. They came to Napoli for, we call it, it's a festival about martial arts organized big associations in the
Mhm.
80s. It was 80, 86, maybe 1986. I was training kickboxing at that time. They came in Napoli. They made a show with the Cajukembo, and it was the first show with the sticks from the Filipino martial arts. The first
Ah,
one in
the
Italy.
first one. Wow.
So it was really an historical show with sticks from FMA
Oh, wow.
that
And
year.
then
It was
wow.
1986, I think.
It was GM Alda Koskas and Marta
Yeah.
Koskas sharing that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. It
Yes.
really is.
Guru Alvin, I would like to ask you if you have a future project in movies or not.
I just finished shooting principal photography on a small art film called Mandromeda, shot by and produced by Jim Towns, who is someone I worked with in the past. I was cast in another sort of web series that he was shooting called Immortal Hands, and it was a martial arts series that sadly hasn't seen the light of day because of many complications. But that's how it is with projects. It's you work on something, it might not ever come out, or it gets canceled. But this last film was all acting, which is lovely. I got to be an actor again, come out of retirement and having to memorize lines and do all my acting skills that are really rusty, and I hope to do some more. So that's what I just worked on, and so I do plan on shooting my own projects in the near future as well, but slowly coming back into the light as an actor and a performer.
I can
I
be the
am hoping.
bad guy if you want. I can be the bad guy if you
Yeah,
want.
perfect. Yeah. So it's so great because of my look. I used to go out and audition as bad guys all the time.
Yeah.
This time I get
It's because of the hair.
the
We
hair.
can only play bad guys because the
Right.
good guys have hair.
There's something evil about the hair going from here to here.
Yeah, because it's devilish. It's
Yes.
devilish. Guru Alvin, can you tell us where do you train? Where do you teach? If you have your gym, your building where to teach, or you just teach in someone else's gym? Where
I have
people
a
can find
school.
you if they want to learn with you, to train
Oh,
with you?
beautiful. Well, you can find me at pamanakali.com. PAMANAKALI.com. That's the name of my
Guys,
school.
there is the description under the video, so you can see
Beautiful.
the link that Guru Alvin gives us. It's
Thank
there.
you.
Just look below.
Right on, right on. And then the headquarters studio is in Torrance, California, where coincidentally Guru Dan had his first school, the Filipino Kali Academy. I was very grateful when Guru Dan gave me his blessing to open my school and said, go teach whatever you want. And I was quite happy about that. And we have 3 clubs here that teach children and adults. We have one in Culver City, we have one in Bixby Knolls in Long Beach, and then another one in Chatsworth in the San Fernando Valley, taught by Guru Mike Macabenta. So we're spreading across Los Angeles with the intention of being the go-to place for Filipino culture and martial arts. We do also teach online. So if anyone from outside of our location wants to train with me or train with our classes, we're here every Monday and Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and then 12:30 on Saturdays. It's been quite successful because we started teaching online because of COVID back in 2020 in order to survive that. And we've really thrived, and it's become a surprise to me that there are some people that train with us only online, and they've become very, very good. I never expected that. I thought we could just, do this for a little while, and then we'll put it away when everybody comes back. But some people just want to train online. I have one student who lives maybe 5-10 minutes away from our studio, and he only wants to train online because of many different reasons. But he's gotten very good just training without coming into the studio. So I've hope for that program.
And in the beginning of this episode, you told us that you train also some Pech and Silat at the Inosanto Academy. What did you train? What style?
Well, what Guru Dan calls it now is Majapahit, which is the name of the ancient
Maflindo?
empire yeah, and it came from Mafalindo, which was the original name for the Silat style that Guru Dan teaches. I like to describe it as the Jeet Kune Do of Silat, right? We take from everywhere to make it ours. And I also train with Guro Alvin Guinanao from the UK in Silat Buka Lingkaran, and I've had some time with.
I will see Alvin in 2 weeks, I think, in Rome.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, he will do his Pencak Silat. I have 6 hours of my Panentukan, but in the meantime, that I don't teach, I will go to train with him.
Yes, you should. And of course, I've spent some time with Guru Malmorne from SSBD, Silat Sufian Beladiri. And then I continue to train in FMA under Guru Mark Mikita in Marina Del Rey as well, who's a little bit controversial in that he cares so much to keep the art alive as a battlefield art and effective art, that he rubs people the wrong way sometimes. But I really do love his perspective on the training and the heart of Kali being the patai, the killing arts. And I don't share all of that with my students, in that the arts have many purposes in our life, right? For like camaraderie and community, for personal expression, for health and conditioning and mobility, for neuroplasticity for your mind, and for spiritual growth. Right? It's not just about learning how to fight, but it's important to me to stay close to its roots and to its nature, so that I can go on from there. I like to tell my students, yes, we can teach you how to kill, but it's more important to come to train so you can learn how to live.
Yeah, sure. You told just 1 minute ago. You told us that you also train with Alvin Guinanao.
Yes.
So I saw something on the ground in the movie. Did you do something to the actors? Some sweeps, some movements on the ground.
The sweep
in the sand, they roll and they sweep from the ground. Did you use something like that also, or it was Filipino, just Filipino stuff?
I didn't work on any of the groundwork, no, but I do know that a lot of the stunt people here in LA have been exposed to Silat. I know for sure, because I actually teach Silat to stunt people at Pamanakali and at 87 North and 8711 Action Design when I was there. That if they wanted to learn some Silat, I taught it to them. But the foot sweep that maybe Austin Butler does comes straight out of the choreography that the stunt team developed, and he was very good at it. Was shockingly good. And then that Roger Yuan during our training and told Austin, "You do this better than your stunt double. Maybe you should do this yourself." And he was so
they fired the stunt double. Oh, okay, we just want Austin.
We don't need you. We got Austin. He's good. he'll do all the fights.
Okay. Guru Alvin, I will invite you in the future if you want to come to talk about what you teach. So today we talked about the movie. If you want to come back and talk about you and what you teach and your Filipino martial arts, it will be a pleasure to have you once again in the section FMA Talks. It's another graphic, another image behind us. So if you want to come, be my guest. It would be a pleasure to have you once again.
Oh, thank you. I would love that.
Okay. And thanks everybody for being with us once again. Thank you, Guro Alvin. It was a pleasure. I hope to see you in the future, and maybe if you come to Italy, just let me know. especially if you come to the south of Italy, it would be a pleasure to meet you.
Oh, I would love
just
that
let us
too.
know.
I'm really hoping to make it out there sometime soon.
Okay. Bye, everybody. And Guro Alvin, it was a pleasure once again. Bye, everybody, and thank you. Thank you.